We start the movie off in Missouri, planet Earth, 1980. Meredith Quill is in a car with her lover, whom she refers to as her spaceman. They hide behind a Dairy Queen and rush into the woods, where the man shows Meredith a little alien seedling that he claims will soon be all over the area. He then kisses Meredith. 34 years later. The Guardians of the Galaxy, Peter Quill / Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, and Baby Groot are standing on a platform, attempting to obtain Anulax batteries from their latest employers, the Sovereigns. The Guardians have their weapons ready as they prepare to face an interdimensional beast known as the Obelisk. The Obelisk descends, prompting the Guardians to leap into action, except for Groot, who is rocking out to Mr. Blue Sky on a speaker put up by Rocket, all while the others are attempting to destroy the Obelisk. To Groot's chagrin, Drax falls on the speaker. Because they cannot damage the Obelisk from the outside, Drax attempts to destroy it from within by allowing it to devour him. Star-Lord spots a wound on the monster's neck and instructs Rocket to persuade it to look up. Gamora then slashes the Obelisk downward, killing it and allowing Drax to escape through the hole. The Guardians return the batteries to the Sovereigns and meet with their High Priestess, Aisha. In return for the batteries, the Sovereigns give Gamora's sister Nebula to the Guardians, who take her to Xander and collect the reward for her. Before they leave, Aisha talks down to the Guardians, namely Peter, stating that his half-human / half-alien parentage gives him something she considers irresponsible. The Guardians depart, with Rocket stealing some of the batteries for himself. The Guardians are pursued by a fleet of Sovereign drones on their route to the planet Xander. The others suspect Rocket, and they're all furious. The drones begin attacking as Rocket attempts to guide the Milano into a wormhole that would transport them to another planet. Another vessel passes by in the distance and begins destroying the Sovereign drones. A guy seems to stand aboard his spacecraft and wave to the Guardians. The Guardians escape the drones but must crash land on a nearby planet. The second ship that saved them descends as the Guardians inspect the wreckage of their ship. Ego appears, revealing himself to be Peter's father. Mantis is his empathic helper. On another world, Yondu Udanta and his Ravagers have fallen on hard times. He's staying at a neighboring motel. Yondu runs across an old friend, Stakaro Gord, who has banished Yondu from the Ravager team for child trafficking. Among the Ravagers are Taserface, who believes the Ravagers require a new leader, and Kraglin, who has since begun to mistrust Yondu's leadership. After Yondu finishes speaking with Stakar, the Sovereigns arrive, and Aisha approaches Yondu with an offer. Peter is still in amazement over finally seeing his father. Ego adds that after Peter's mother died, he dispatched Yondu to fetch him up. Peter is still perplexed as to why Ego abandoned Meredith in the first place. He invites Peter and his pals to his world, which Peter declines until Gamora persuades him to join his father. Peter, Gamora, and Drax accompany Ego and Mantis, while Rocket and Groot remain behind to repair the Milano and keep a check on Nebula. On Ego's spacecraft, the three converse with Mantis, who demonstrates her abilities by looking into their brains. She informs everyone that Peter has sexual affections for Gamora, which Drax finds funny. The Ravagers arrive to the woods where the Guardians have crash-landed. Most of them end up wandering into Rocket's traps until Yondu appears with his Yaka arrow, which he controls by whistling. The Ravagers capture Rocket and Groot, but when Taserface intends to get Peter, Yondu is less inclined to send him over. Nebula then fractures the crest on Yondu's skull, knocking him unconscious. She joins the Ravagers as they kidnap Rocket, Groot, and Yondu. Ego welcomes everyone to the planet that literally lives through him, for Ego is a celestial and his awareness is the planet's core. He reveals to the three that he created a human shape to tour the cosmos, and that he arrived to Earth and fell in love with Meredith, but that he couldn't visit her very frequently since it would use a lot of his energy. Peter is still angry with Ego for abandoning Meredith to die. As Peter becomes increasingly emotional, his hands emit tremendous energy that is tied to Ego's own strength. Ego teaches him how to control and use it. Taserface and his thugs begin ejecting all who are still loyal to Yondu on the Ravager ship, except for Kraglin, who just stares in disbelief as his companions are slain. When Taserface brags about his prowess and fearful moniker, Rocket merely mocks him. Nebula appears and offers that the Ravagers give in their hostages to the Kree for the bounty on their heads. She often makes additional requests, such as a new hand. Kraglin takes her to a spacecraft, which she uses to escape the Ravager and find Gamora. Mantis and Drax build a relationship, however Drax continues to tell Mantis that he considers her disgusting, but that this is a good thing because he believes he is terrible as well and yet managed to find someone who loved him for who he is. Mantis claims she has to tell Drax something vital, but Gamora interrupts and Mantis remains silent, instead escorting the two to their quarters. The Ravagers imprison Rocket and Yondu while taking Groot for their own amusement. Yondu explains how he was a Kree war slave before Stakar kidnapped him and turned him into a Ravager. When Rocket inquires as to why Yondu kept Peter around, he argues that it was because Peter was tiny enough to fit in places where the others couldn't. The two then decide to work together to get out of there. Groot is summoned, and Yondu instructs him to obtain a prototype fin for his head. Yondu grabs his fin and gets himself and Rocket out after bringing a number of improper stuff. Yondu throws the arrow through every mutinous Ravager they come across, while Rocket and Groot get in on some Ravager escaping themselves. They board an escape ship with Kraglin, but not before Yondu blows up the entire ship. Taserface is hit by flames, but he manages to alert Aisha of Yondu's position before collapsing with the ship. The other four must make 700 leaps to reach Ego's planet. Back on Ego's world, Peter tries to woo Gamora with his dance routines, but it doesn't work since she can't bring herself to exhibit her own interest to him. Gamora then notices Nebula approaching her spacecraft and firing at her. Nebula leaps out of the plane to confront Gamora. Nebula defeats Gamora but explains that she never intended to show herself superior to her, only to have a genuine sister. Gamora's skill as a warrior resulted in their father Thanos mutilating Nebula, leading to her hate of Gamora. When they come upon a cavern full of around 100 skeletons, the two form a sort of alliance. Peter and Ego's relationship is still strong. Ego assures Peter that as long as there is light on the globe, he will keep his abilities and immortality. Mantis notices that Ego has Peter wrapped around his little finger now that he is aware of his own abilities. She goes to wake up Drax and warns him that Ego's true objectives are now evident. Rocket, Groot, Yondu, and Kraglin arrive at their goal. Rocket begins to boast that he wants to save Peter merely to prove he's better than him and can hold it over his head, but Yondu cuts him off by noting how afraid Rocket is and how he puts on the tough guy act as a ruse. They then headed off to confront Ego. Ego tells Peter that he wants to create the expansion. He traveled the cosmos to hundreds of other worlds to plant seedlings that would spread his dominance across the galaxy and blanket the planets in an extension of himself. He impregnated women from other worlds and had numerous offspring, whom Yondu sent to him, but since they did not have the same ability as a Celestial, Ego had them slain, and their bones are what Gamora and Nebula discovered. Peter just happens to have the power that Ego was yearning for. Ego also confesses that he implanted the tumor that killed Meredith in her skull so that he would not feel the anguish of being absent from her. Peter comes out of it and proceeds to unleash his weapons on Ego in rage. In reaction, Ego seizes Peter and commands him to begin spreading the seeds over the worlds, wreaking massive havoc. To top it all off, Ego destroys Peter's Walkman and Awesome Mix Volume 2 that his mother left him. Rocket, Groot, and Yondu meet up with Gamora, Drax, Nebula, and Mantis as they prepare to stop Ego. Unfortunately, they are also confronted by a fleet of sovereigns intended to murder them. Peter resists Ego's human form, but his entire planet self fights back. Mantis can put Ego to sleep while the Guardians take care of the others. They battle back against the sovereigns, finally destroying their whole fleet with a swarm of lasers. Meanwhile, Rocket constructs a bomb out of the batteries he stole, which Groot steals and flees with, ignoring Rocket's warning that if he presses the incorrect button, they would all perish. A fireball knocks Mantis unconscious, severing her grip on Ego and reawakening him. As the others struggle to flee, Ego begins to swallow them. Peter continues to combat his father with his celestial powers. Groot, now free, locates Ego's brain in the planet's core and prepares the bomb to detonate in 5 minutes. Drax transports Mantis to the ship as Gamora and Nebula return. Rocket hands over his remaining spacesuit to Yondu, knowing that he cannot save both him and Peter. Gamora tries to return, but Rocket stops her so he doesn't lose another buddy. Ego begs Peter to halt the bomb, or else Peter will become a normal person. Peter sees nothing wrong with that and lets the bomb go off. As the rest of the Earth explodes, Ego's human body disintegrates. Yondu swings past and grabs Peter. As they depart the planet's atmosphere, Yondu places the suit on Peter to rescue him. He informs Peter that while Ego was his father, he was never his daddy. Yondu suddenly begins to freeze in space, and Peter watches him die. The Guardians are preparing to give Yondu a dignified Ravager funeral. Kraglin offers Peter a Zune to make up for his lost Walkman, which Yondu had been intending to give him for a long. In exchange, Peter delivers Kraglin Yondu's arrow, believing that Yondu would have intended him to have it. Nebula sets off to track Thanos down on her own, but not before reconciling with Gamora. Mantis resolves to stay with the Guardians. As Yondu's body is released into space, the Guardians notice scores of other Ravager spacecraft approaching to pay their respects to Yondu. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed this movie and making the recap. Please click that like button if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to subscribe and use the notification bell for all our future content. Stay safe and have a great day.